We're back.
We're back.
Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are on the planet. It's nice to see everybody again.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you to Enzo for looking after our chat. It's much appreciated. It's all a bit lastminute.com, but thank you for being there with us. So, where have we been? What have we been doing? Oh my God. We've been busy. We've been super busy. Where do you want to start?
You just take over.
You want me to take over?
Yeah,
oh God, that's not good. Okay, so we have been very busy trying to finally consolidate all the courses that we run. I don't know whether people realize, but we're mediums. We teach mediumship as well as all sorts of other bits and pieces. And so we finally managed to find a platform where we can put everything in one place rather than being scattered all over the internet. So there is a link somewhere in the chat box to that. We call it the Zeta Connection Education Portal. There's a whole variety of courses on there you'll see, from little ones to big long ones, about all sorts of metaphysical practices, how to contact ET races, how to contact your spirit guide, introductions to just mental mediumship, progression to trance development, all sorts of things. Shamanic work. What have I forgotten?
Oh, I don't know.
We've got a lot. So if you scroll up, I believe the link is at the top of the chat box somewhere for that. And Enzo's popping the link into the website now. Thank you. That will also have a link to the education portal from it.
That's right.
Do you want to talk about the events we're doing?
Well, we've just finished writing a new book. It's all about development and how, from birth all the way through to now. So that's been very, very interesting.
Just a few years.
Just a few years to cover. We are also speaking at a UFO conference. Is it a conference, you'd say? Or
yes, a conference, yeah.
Presentation in Sydney on the 1st of October. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be very interesting as well.
What's that about? That's about our lives with Zeta. Yeah, our everyday lives.
Yeah, we'll have slideshows and things to see and lots of questions, I guess.
Audio clips.
Audio clips of craft, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of things there.
All right, so...
And then we're running events for a week afterwards as well, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, that's right, I forgot.
You forgot.
I forgot. We're running events as well in Sydney. So,
we've asked the Zeta if they would come and talk to people through Paul, and they have said they would. They've never let us down.
Yeah.
So although we never guarantee they're going to turn up, they've never let us down to date. And so we'll be there for a sitting. We'll also be doing a presentation about the Zeta perspective on disclosure and the perceived alien abduction phenomena, if you're interested in that. And you're in Sydney the first week of October.
That's right. So we've got a whole lot of questions again, but I think we've got a question bank with about 100 to 200 questions in it from people.
Yeah, and we've gathered more in the last 6 weeks as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It never ends.
So the first question is, why do the Zetas warn of embedding technology into a person? And I think that comes from years ago when there was the sighting. I'm not sure whether it was where the children were told not to be technologied.
Yeah, it's the oh my God,
the Ariel.
Ariel, yeah. I was going to say Westall, but it wasn't
that
one. It was Ariel, yeah.
And then, of course, there's that big crop circle that was created by some races. So beware of the deceivers or the deception or whatever.
That one was in Hampshire in the UK, which is near the south coast of England.
You've got a good memory. And the Zetas, we always thought that they were talking about technology from the human race being embedded into people. But it's become a bit obvious that they're talking about technology from other races that humans will accept. But somehow some humans believe that to have contact with ET races, you need to accept some sort of technology from them to do that.
Yeah.
You just know on so many levels. You could spend an hour talking about why you shouldn't do that. That's.
I think originally we always thought that they were talking about the planet becoming overridden with technology, but in the last sort of 5-10 years, we've seen an increase in the amount of ET races with not the best of intention in providing the technology, and so it kind of all matches up with those very early crop circle to what they were told at the school.
Yeah.
That we believe, and that it was more of a warning about technology from other ET races rather than the development of technology on this planet. Would you agree?
I would agree. Well, the next question says, how can you remove an embedded device by yourself? Could you do it by just intention?
We've asked the Zetas about that many, many times, and the answer is always no. No, it's their technology, extraterrestrial technology, far outweighs the intent of the human constructs intent.
The recipients,
yeah. No, if we come across situations where people are asking for help with perceived extraterrestrial implants, we have to speak to the Zeta, and if they're going to be removed, is going to be removed by the Zeta. There's nothing that we could do to take that away from somebody.
So you couldn't lever it off with a screwdriver or something?
You could try.
No, I wouldn't be doing that. No. So what about a person who's goes into a trance state with a spirit? Could they see that technology? No,
we've always been told that no, that's not possible because of the frequency that the spirits are at versus the frequency that the implanted technology is occurring. It's too different. It's going back to that radio analogy. One's on AM and the other one's on FM, all existing at the same time, but you can only tune into one or the other.
Yeah. Okay. So are we ready for the next question?
Well, just hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
We have a question. Thank you. Questions. Absolutely. Feel free to interject with questions at any point. But if I could ask you to put them in caps lock, because my eyes are really bad and I can't see them. So
you need embedded technology.
I need embedded technology to see properly. What about removing an ET device in one's own auric field? We refer to the auric field as the etheric field. The vast majority of extraterrestrial implants these days are in the etheric field. A human can't even detect an implant in their etheric field. And it's the etheric implants that we've been advised about can only be removed by an extraterrestrial
I guess
race.
You could liken it to that you've been under hypnosis and someone's given you a thought, okay?
Yeah.
And then, you come out of hypnosis, but you can't remember what the thought is. So you start looking through your consciousness, looking for what the embedded thought was, but you actually can't see it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the technologies, is from what we've seen and experienced, is that even though you try to view it, it's basically obfuscates.
It hides.
It hides.
This stuff is clever. It's way beyond clever. Yeah.
Also, it's the same as screen memories.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing. So you get like a memory about something, a narrative. I saw a rabbit, 6-foot rabbit, and then you're sort of wondering, well, did I see it or didn't I see it? Was that real? And in your mind, that rabbits aren't 6 feet tall. That's the first thing. But it's because it's the screen memory and it's an embedded narrative. Then, of course, you're now sort of trying to challenge a screen memory, which is an embedded, level of consciousness. So this technology that's being used by some of the races is pretty advanced, because if it wasn't, people wouldn't have missing time. You would not have all these different narratives that are occurring.
Yeah.
People would just be able to bypass screen memory technology. And I know people say they can using hypnosis and a whole lot of other things, and you probably can in some certain extents, depending on the type of the screen memory.
Or depending how deep they're layered.
Yeah.
See that
Yeah.
quite often we find with people having their screen memories removed via hypnotherapy is that unfortunately they just come down to another layer of screen memory. So, if these ET races don't want you to remember something, you're probably not going to remember it. When the screen memories fail, and they can fail, it's because they're designed to fail. Or if there's something about your memory that's not quite right, it's like a plaster that's been deliberately left with an end flipping up. So at some point when you're ready, you can take that off. But the ones that are designed to stick can't be removed. It's just not going to happen.
It's like I don't know, have you ever had this where you wake up and you think it's raining and you like go and stand at the window and watch the rain and all these sorts of things? In the morning you go outside and the ground's dry. Yeah. And it's like what you've been having is a contact situation. You've been given a holographic environment to stand into view the rain and all the rest of it. And while that's happening, something else is going on. And, you could have sworn that it was raining. But it's actually happened to me. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I've been in what looked like my lounge, but it was not my lounge. It was a projection of my lounge, an SQE.
They're called Category E constructs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, that's just bonkers. When
bonkers.
When I think back on that memory, as far as I was concerned, I'm in my lounge, but I wasn't in my lounge at all. Yeah. Anyway,
what's that question from Epic?
Why do they implant into the etheric field?
Yeah. Well, the etheric field
because it's easier than
a mirror
planting into the
image
physical.
of the physical body in the past. In like 60 years ago, a lot of the technology was embedded into the physical body.
Yeah.
And of course, over time, technology was developed that they could create etheric technology. Now, we know that that's possible because the Zetas created an etheric ear for a person. Now, the person was unable to hear. The Zetas created an etheric ear and they mapped it to the physical part of the brain that can hear. It was then studied by a scientist who did audiometric testing, and the etheric ear still exists today. There's a link on our website, I believe, that goes to that article.
Yeah, in the testimony section. If you scroll down, it's near the bottom somewhere. But
So you can see that they can provide etheric technologies and implants as well that support a human and into wellness, like for the ear, as an example. But also there are races that embed technology into the etheric for different reasons as well. It basically comes down to what is the implant and what does it do.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not all bad.
No, of course not.
Everything's nothing's black and white.
I think that's really important, isn't it? To
Absolutely.
Remember, it isn't just one thing or the other. You have to look at everything individually and see why something specifically happens.
Yeah. Just like you have to remember, it's not one ET race out there; it's multiple ET races. They all have their different agendas. They all have their different technologies. They all have their different reasons for being here. No two races are here for the same reason.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The next one is what is trauma and what does it do to the etheric body's energy and capacities?
From the Zeta perspective.
Yeah, from the Zeta perspective. So when we talk to the Zetas about things like chakras, they said, well, they're just constructs that people believe exist. Now, that's debatable whether people believe it or not. I do Reiki, and so, I can, imagine chakras and all the rest of it. There's another thing is that they say that when there's some sort of disturbance in the etheric body, if you've ever noticed a very deep river that's running slowly, you may look onto the surface of the water and you'll see these swirling eddies on the top as they move along. And when the Zetas look at a human body, they see these swirling eddies, but that could be that a person has a sore shoulder. So when they're looking at the etheric body, they see that swirling frequency. So from their perspective, they're seeing the trauma, but from a etheric level, and it then maps down into the physical body because, of course, the etheric body is a mirror image of the physical body.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess that goes back. That also goes back to the whole point of the etheric technology. It translates into the physical.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're surrounded by lots of different technologies. You know, radio waves.
Yeah.
People watch TV. You know, and you need a special physical device to pick up the TV channels, but they still exist.
Mm-hmm.
You need a special device to pick up a phone call, but you're surrounded by millions of phone calls bouncing off cellular towers, satellites, all these sorts of things. You can't see the technology,
but
it's
having an effect on you.
It's everywhere and it's all around you. That's right. That's right. Even something like a wireless router. It's sending all of the data to all of your devices, but you can't see it. So it's all around you. So that's how I understand etheric technologies. Okay, so the next question, which is an interesting one regarding timelines. Oh, hang on. Is there a question?
There is. Let me
What's
find
this question? Maintenance and clearing in your ethereal body can clear lower energies? Question. That's interesting. When you say that, yes, absolutely. So, you know, when you sit, imagine yourself in a sphere, you are cognizant of what you're doing, you're in the now with that, and you're doing mindfulness. You can really clear your own energy because you're able to ground and clear out that energy. And that's the benefit of having free will. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not going to remove an etheric implant. No. Unfortunately.
No. But still, you know, it's a good thing, isn't it? You wake up in the morning, have a beautiful meditation session, sit there, clear your own energy, ground out, set yourself up for the day, and off you go. Yeah. So that's a different process altogether. Now, a bit of a technical question. If the zetas only exist on one timeline and lots of timelines are occurring, how the heck did each of us end up in this one to be able to experience them? Well, the thing is that you're existing on all timelines in an asynchronous environment. So can you imagine something like channels on a radio? You've got all the different radio stations that are all playing their music, and of course you can only hear the one that you're tuned into. So if you're on this supposedly linear timeline, to actually listen to or see yourself on another timeline, you need to move from this frequency to the next frequency. The thing is with the zetas, and they've said this, that they exist only on this one linear timeline. They don't have the capacity to exist in an asynchronous environment across lots of timelines. Why do I keep saying asynchronous? Well, because if one person who passes over or dies on one specific timeline, that does not then nullify all of the other lives of that individual. But it has to be a termination across all timelines, all infinite timelines, that ultimately that person no longer exists in any physical form. That's a fairly complicated discussion.
I get that. Yeah? But why can the Zeta not do that?
They just don't. That's what they've said. They just don't.
I'm going to ask them about that.
There you go. You ask them that. You ask them that question. All right. So it's probably a little bit early in the morning to be talking about things that technical.
I think I might need a coffee.
You might need a coffee. We actually need coffee. What's the difference between abductions and the friendly contacts performed by one's own race? So the question is, you're being abducted and, the perception is abduction. And then, of course, the other one is that you're being taken but by your own race. What do you think the difference is?
Well, it's a bit like imagine you're a pet dog and you've got something wrong with you and you're feeling really poopy and you've got to go to the vets, and the person you trust is taking you to the vets, but you don't like going to the vets, and the vets is really scary. They're going to perform all these procedures on you that you don't understand, that are for your own benefit. They're going to make you well again. And you have a terrible time and you're completely freaked out and you definitely don't want to do it again. It's kind of a bit like that.
Yeah.
Many abductions are exactly that scenario. The human needs an adjustment maybe to their etheric self. Maybe they just need a checkup. Most abductions by friendly ET races are of their own hybrid humans who are part in consciousness from that race. And because of that, they will always have visits. Now, whether they remember them or not is a different matter. But the ones that do remember or have some degree of recollection about it probably aren't going to be enjoying it much. They're not going to be understanding what's going on. And it's going to be pretty terrifying. And I speak from experience about that. And so can you. Yeah. But once you enter a different phase of that relationship with them and you begin to have some idea of what's happening and why, you can kind of get past the fear, and it can take a very long time to do that.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. What about somebody who is being taken, what they believe, against their free will by a race?
Yeah.
And it's not their own race. So
well, that's the difference.
Let's say that you're a Palladian hybrid, but you're being taken by an abductor race or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the difference for me would always be, after the abduction experience, have I actually been harmed in any way, shape or form? Has something about my life gotten better? Maybe I was suffering from a physical illness and now I'm not. Maybe there was something wrong with me and that's been taken away. So there's the abduction experience itself, but then there's what happens after that abduction experience.
I've found sometimes that when I've been visited by races, and I can name them, Alpha Centauri race, the specific abductor race of the Greys, remembering that the Zeta species, or the Grey species, has 63 races and only one of them is an abduction race.
Yeah.
When I've actually had them turn up, I've been able to withstand them taking me, because what they try to do is using cognizant consciousness and pressure. They try to get you to perform a function against your free will. But if you have what's classed as strength of mind, the strength of mind is that you've gained that through training yourself to withstand these types of encounters. They will leave because they know that they can't influence you. So it's really important to understand that you are not helpless, that you actually can, if you meditate and you gain strength of mind, which is the ability to withstand this, that you don't have to be abducted. That's really important to understand.
Just got to mentally stand up to it. And it's hard. It's really difficult.
Oh, absolutely. It's psychologically difficult.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, there's another question.
Are small and tiny round bruises in odd places from implants? No, I would suggest probably not, because most of the etheric implants don't leave a mark on the body. There are other procedures, though, that can leave little marks. We've seen plenty of those ourselves over the years.
Yeah, people trying to take my pizza off me while I'm eating it. That's going to probably leave some marks.
Oh boy!
Oh boy!
Thanks for that.
It's just random. It's just that random stuff that you throw out there, isn't it?
It sure is. That the whole kind of red grid mark phenomenon. Has anybody heard of that? Where you see like a series of geometrically aligned dots. You know, I'm going to put my hand up. I thought that was not real. I really didn't believe that was real. Then we woke up one morning and Paul had them all over your back, and I knew exactly what you'd been doing the day before. And I know and we don't have anything in the house that would create marks like that. And then I woke up with them all down my arm one morning as well. Like, so that, you know, that wasn't an etheric implant, but it's definitely a sign of something going on.
Or Dato.
Hang on. Yep.
No, that one.
You want me to put that one up on the screen?
Put that one up.
Hang on.
It's a comment, I believe. Considering the electromagnetic chemical contents of the full light spectrum as information gamma rays, the question, could a human evolution, mediumship, ET communication, be a result promoted by aliens? Absolutely.
Human evolution.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the whole thing. I mean, you could spend hours talking about the phenomenon. So I'll give you an example. You've got a heater, it's a cold day. You're sitting in front of the heater and the heater's generating heat. You can feel the heat, but you also can understand that it's being generated by a device. What if you had a blindfold on and were sitting in front of the heater and didn't know that it was there? What you hadn't been told there was a heater, but you could feel the heat. You see, you would be being influenced by the heat. You would be warmed by the heat, but you wouldn't know what was the actual source of the heat. And so with the phenomenon, when people go out and maybe do, say, C5 and they see flash of light in the sky, the potential is that it is a phenomenon that is reacting to your consciousness.
Rather than a craft.
Rather than a craft. It doesn't mean it's not a craft every time. Also, it can be that when you're in a house that you may look and suddenly see an orb. That could be the phenomenon. It could be your own consciousness being reflected back to you. Or it could also be things like an electrical disturbance. It could be a spirit person manifesting from spirit realm into the physical, and they present themselves as an orb as well. So we need to try to understand that the alien contact isn't just one thing or another. There's actually this whole other thing going on around us as well, like a holographic environment on a starship, you know, from Star Trek. You go in there, it seems all real, but you just don't know whether it is or it isn't.
I quite like this comment.
Overlanders, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we're a lesser intelligent species, so we're at the mercy of those who think in ways that we cannot comprehend.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Couldn't agree more with that.
Right,
And
what's next?
Just wanted to say in regards to that, look at some of the things that are being said at the moment, like Gary Nolan. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He works with some of the military pilots and has a look at some of the physical damage that's occurred to them when they move near craft. He indicated the other day when talking to somebody, I think it was on YouTube, that there's a possibility, and it was just them, it was a hypothetical situation, that they could create some sort of genetic interference or drug that could stop people from being abducted.
Probably not going to happen.
I don't know. I just don't know if that's even possible.
I can't see how it is possible.
You know, because you think that if you did one thing, that then they would just do another. They would just go, okay, well, you've done that, so we'll just do this.
It's like, well, when everything's based in consciousness, I just don't really see how any kind of chemical drug could affect that. There's a question there.
Well, you can always wear a tinfoil hat.
A
tinfoil hat. You know, like all those people in the movies that used to wear them. Watch out.
When your consciousness ends on one timeline, does it move into your consciousness in another timeline?
Oh man, that is such a good question. I'd have to actually sit back and ponder that over a coffee, I think. Yeah. Well, if you think about it from a spiritual perspective, Silver Birch talked about the fact that the oversoul had facets. If you think of a diamond has many faces to it. And that oversoul, those facets are individuated forms of consciousness from the oversoul.
So the oversoul would go back to the oversoul.
The individual, the face of that individual person would go back to the oversoul. And the oversoul is the collective consciousness of that individuated form. And so, yes, that is a very, very good question.
Isn't it?
But it can be answered from teachings from spirits.
Yep.
Spirits have a lot of information as well.
Yep. Maybe.
Yep.
Oh.
Wait a minute. What do we got?
Okay, try and keep these questions in caps locks, guys.
They've got to be in caps.
It's really hard for me to see.
Considering the human brain as a hardware is outside ET, uploading common to certain humans, what kind of humans? Generally, you are, if you're a hybrid, then you will be getting a lot of downloads, a lot of uploads, those sorts of things. And then there's other people that are from spirit realm. They just get nothing. That's just the way it is, because there's no symbiotic relationship between the spirit people and the ET taking place, so they're not getting any downloads at all.
And just to clarify, when we talk about hybrids, we're talking hybrids of consciousness.
Yeah. Not somebody,
not biological.
Not biological.
Humans. They don't exist.
no DNA changes and all the rest of it. Although, like in the end, that's all sort of debatable.
Well, that's very true when you think
DNA
about the
and
whole
all these sorts of
Anunnaki
things.
and reptilian original beings.
Absolutely.
I definitely need more coffee for that conversation.
More coffee. The next one is, what are the abductors' race motives, and why on earth are they allowed by those races who protect our free will to continue? That's two questions. I believe that you know the answer quite well to what are the abductor race's motives.
What are their motives?
Yes.
It was really simple, actually. It was just experience.
Okay.
The abductors' race motives to take people from this planet.
Yeah, and what are they trying to do with those people?
They are trying to simulate what the other ET races have done and create hybrids of consciousness. But because they haven't sought permission from spirit realm, they can't do it.
This information is actually available in a lot of the books. Oh, by the way, all of the books are now available on Amazon. That's so a primer of the Zeta race, the Zeta interviews. They're all on Kindle and paperback.
Literally for like $2 or $3.
Yeah, they're not expensive. The Zeta Mind is up there as well. The new book that I'm writing will be up there within a couple of days as well. Plus, there are a whole lot of other study guides. But some of the questions that you're asking, that stuff's up on Amazon and really interesting read. Interestingly, the Zeta interviews, I think it's like 700 pages.
How much is that on a Kindle?
I don't know, $2.99. So
that's Australian as well.
$2, $3.
That'd be like $1.50 or something.
Yeah,
50p.
Anyway, 50p. Yeah.
We just thought it'd be easier to read than a PDF document. So if you want to read it, it's there. Whatever.
All right. And then it says, well, listen, if they're being abducted. So hang on, we need to go back a bit. So the abductors, when they're trying to create, what they're trying to do is animate physical forms, aren't they?
That's right. Because they don't have permission from spirit realm beings to create a hybrid of consciousness, they've tried to bypass the process, which is one of agreement with a spirit realm being, by creating a biological hybrid. Well, they do not have the capability to animate a human body solely of their own race. They can't do it.
No.
So they have to take unfortunately, they have to take a fetus, and then they biologically manipulate it, and then they put it back into a maturation chamber, or goodness, I can't remember.
Sounds like some science.
It sounds like something out of the X-Files, doesn't it? Really, but those human biological hybrids aren't on this planet. It would be pretty obvious if they were.
Yeah. All right. So, and then it says, well, then, okay, look, we're being abducted, or someone's being abducted. I don't know who. And why is it that our own race just don't stop that from happening?
That's a good question.
That's a $1 million question.
Well, humans have no capacity to stop it.
Well, what we've seen is that some people will contact us to say they're being abducted. We'll talk to the Zetas, and next thing you know, it completely stops. It's as if there was a discussion by the Zetas with a different race, and they just decided that they weren't going to do it anymore. Those questions, some questions are very difficult to answer. We can ask the Zetas. I mean, that's fine, and we can come back with answers to that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid
But
question.
we have stopped people's abductions before, even people that just couldn't handle the contact scenarios from their own races that were being carried out for all the good reasons, but it was just too much. We've spoken to the Zetas, and the Zetas have intervened, and they've sorted the situation, and the abductions have stopped, which is, if that's what somebody wants. And then we've had people in the past who have wanted it all to stop and then beg for it to start back up again 6 months ago because they miss it. It's all very crazy.
There's a question from Rebecca. It says, do the Zetas work with Source and
Gaia?
The thing is that we have to understand that Source consciousness has created every single facet of existence for all things across the multiverse. So it doesn't matter who is a representation of consciousness. Everybody on some level is streaming information back to Source.
Yeah.
There is nothing, even the rock sitting on the ground is vibrating at a level where it has an experience that is sending information back to Source. Source has externalized itself into every infinite facet of existence across the multiverse, and is experiencing everything from a grain of sand to a drop of water to physical forms to the air, all things. Great question.
They see Gaia or the Earth as a living,
conscious entity. Absolutely.
And that they do hold that same value as the concept of Gaia is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Go down.
Going down. Here we go.
Why did the ETs create clones of humans and then transfer that specific human's consciousness into the clone so that clone can do something on behalf of the ETs? So I need to look at that again. Why did the ET create clones of humans and then transfer the specific human's consciousness into that clone?
Why would they need to transfer?
The interesting thing is we've actually seen them clone a human. So they'll clone me. But what they do is it's not me that bilocates into that container. It's another Zeta. And those physical forms, or another being, those physical forms can walk around as human beings on planet for about 3 hours.
That wouldn't be your consciousness.
No, it's not my consciousness.
Yeah, this question is the person's consciousness.
I know, and I understand that. And I know what they're saying. I've not seen that. That's what
we actually have seen it.
Okay, now I'm wrong. Off we go.
Yeah, no. I'm just like dredging through my memory here. Like, have we seen that?
Have we seen that? Yeah,
we did.
Okay.
Do you remember when we had a situation with the abductors, and you had to speak to them, and they created a copy of you,
right?
But it was within an SQE.
Okay, but yeah.
Now that would have okay. So yeah, the example that we know of would very much feel like a reality to the clone.
But it's using a synthetic quantum environment to do that.
You wouldn't, honestly, the clone would not know the difference. A person would not know the difference that they were a copy of themselves. It's that highly sophisticated. You would have no idea. But you wouldn't recognize that at the time. You would only
I think
recognize that potentially with hindsight, or if you were told.
Yeah, I think Angel's talking about a different situation than what we're talking about though.
Okay, well that's all we can allude to on that one. I
don't know about that. And so, okay, the question here is, I'm sure that many view friendly contact or abductions as terrifying. Yeah, well, initially, yes, they are.
They are terrifying.
But how can you tell the abductor race from the other Zeta types? Because supposedly they all look very much similar to each other.
Yeah, the abductors, they do look different to the other races. But if you haven't seen the race up close and personal, how would you know the difference?
Energy.
Yeah, it's all in the energy. That's
Although
right.
we did get that a request this morning from that person saying that they felt fear. And remember, fear is a very common thing with any race that comes, because the physical body doesn't have the capacity to understand how to metabolize the frequency, and so it presents itself as fear initially. And then, of course, once you realize what's going on, the fear dissipates.
Or you've got the what happens afterwards. Was I harmed during the contact experience? Your own race isn't going to harm you. As for the abductors, God knows what.
Okay, just now, this question has nothing to do with abduction. This one's a craft question. It says, in Roswell, it is stated that the craft skin was able to reform itself. If this is a biological entity, why is it the craft skin seemed to be metallic? Well, that's just because of our understanding. I mean, something can't not be metallic just because we think it doesn't exist. That's the first thing. And if you have a look up, and we've talked about this before, nitinol. Nitinol is a metal that's on this planet that if you heat it up after you've crunched up, it reforms back into its original shape. So I think that information for that specific metal was not gained on planet. That's just my own personal hypothesis. Right. All right. Now,
I'm just remembering we were also told that the craft that are biological in nature and that hold their own consciousness, they do have a skin over them to protect them, don't they?
Yeah. Well, we've got skin, but it's still, you can still feel. You know,
so the question was, if that was a biological entity, why does the craft skin seem to be metallic? Well, it could just be.
It just looks that way.
Yeah.
Well, have you seen the Zetas that look like stainless steel?
I have.
You have. You see what I mean? Now that's skin. It's not. It's not a mask. So there you go. So that's, well, how many races have we met? We've met
out of the 63.
5, isn't it?
I think it's actually 7 now.
Oh, 7. Okay. Wow.
They all look quite different.
So the next question is, what is an SQE, a synthetic quantum environment? An SQE is technology, and it's also integrated with consciousness. So it's as though you can shift the fabric of a room so that you can create a different environment within the room. Generally, SQEs hold what is called a mirror image of something. So you could have a memory of seeing an image on Mars. You could sit inside an SQE, and using your memory image, you could create the full environment of the image inside the SQE, even to the point where you wouldn't know that you were actually standing inside an SQE.
Well, that goes back to when I was supposedly in my lounge, but really wasn't in my lounge. It was a complete energetic copy of my lounge. The best way to liken an SQE is like the holodeck on Star Trek. You know, they're walking around in a box in a room, but to them it feels like they're in a completely different place.
SQ is really interesting. I'm not sure whether it's the book Alien Interaction or the Zeta Interviews, but they talk about 153 synthetic quantum environments that exist around planet. But what's not known is that SQEs actually can exist within the fabric or the framework of this physical environment. So they can actually be created by extraterrestrials on the fly. So you could have an SQE inside your house being visited by extraterrestrials. You're in bed asleep, completely asleep, but a copy of you has been taken. You're inside a synthetic quantum environment, and you're going through an abduction experience, and you're still laying in bed.
Yep, you wouldn't know the difference.
And you wouldn't even know the difference.
Yeah.
There's Justin's question there. Show that one. What's that one? Are the Zetas responsible or have contributed to the whole corona and vax thing going on today? No, not at all.
They really tried to help, actually. On 3 occasions, they
Yeah.
They really tried to help contain the spread, and they tried to
fear.
They tried to reprogram the virus, of course, viruses of consciousness. We did a little video about that. Akashi Chris did a little video on one of my art pieces, which I tried to capture that experience that we had, and you can go and watch that if you know her channel, Mind Forked. It's very good.
How are SQEs used by extraterrestrials? An example is jump room technology. Basiago and co were using technology to jump to Mars.
It's the perfect example.
It's the perfect example.
They, as far as they were concerned, they were on Mars fighting aliens, you know, having gun battles with them and everything, and they were losing limbs and all sorts of things.
And
yet when they returned, they were in one piece, completely intact. SQE felt real as it can get. Woke up, came round, perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you create an SQE? Does it require a large amounts of power? Actually, it doesn't require large amounts of power. It requires large amounts of consciousness. And actually, it doesn't even, I shouldn't even say large amounts of consciousness. It requires a person to understand how to create the construct of the environment, because it's based on quantum mechanics, well above my head completely, but still able to be done because I'm able to do it when I'm in a trance state. Not all the time, just occasionally. And I'm also supported in the creation of doing that as well. Yeah. So I'm sure that with the right type of training, it can be achieved by hybrids. Yeah. And I say hybrids specifically. SQEs tuned to a specific frequency of matter, or can they have multiple attunements or just one? I don't think that question's relevant. I don't, because it's got nothing to do with matter. It's got everything to do with imagery, intention, and consciousness and construct. All right?
That's all very complicated.
Yeah.
That's too. I need coffee for that.
Yeah, we need coffee for that. But the thing is, if you look in... Can I just
say thank you to Enzo for just putting that in?
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Enzo. If you look in the primer of the Zeta Race that was written by myself and William Trinity, there is a lot of information about synthetic quantum environments in that book. Now, that book can be found as a PDF and downloaded for free, no problem. Yeah. But if people want to have a physical copy of it or a Kindle version, that's also available on Amazon. So it's up to you. Download it for free, read the PDF if you want. How can an SQE be used to move from one planet to another? They can't, because they are only a construct, and the construct is able to allow you to believe that you have moved from one planet to the other planet, but you actually didn't.
A bit like going to Mars.
I love these SQE questions because I'm sure that people that write them are into science fiction or really have a great, capacity for creation. It's because the next question says, if a copy of myself is put into an SQE, is that the same as creating another universe? Will the self in that SQE continue existing forever? No, not at all. So what happens is we take a copy of Cyan, we put her into an SQE. She has all of these experiences, and then we collapse the SQE. Cyan consciousness integrates the SQE information. She believes she actually has the experience. Yeah,
it feels real. It feels absolutely real. I've experienced it multiple times, and the most profound was when I was much, much younger. And as I said before, I was absolutely convinced I had, it's too complicated to go into, but you just do not know the difference. It's, you know, it's quite an awesome thing when you get your head around it. Enzo, yes, Lynn could definitely use a coffee for hosting our show today and for all the other times she's hosted it as well. So, yeah, if anybody wants to contribute to buy me a coffee for Lynn for hosting this platform, then that would be very much appreciated by everybody involved. Thank you.
Rebecca says,
hang on.
Are hybrid and starseed the same thing? Yes.
Indigo children, crystal children, rainbow children, all the new age
any type of name
all
that you
those
want
phrases
to label.
Yeah.
It's a symbiotic relationship between spirit people and hybrids.
Yeah.
And
consciousness, not biological.
If we think about it this way, if that humans actually are an introduced species to the planet, every single person on this planet is alien to this planet.
Whether you like it or not.
So no one's special. We're all just different.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Some people are carpenters, some people are builders, but everyone's different. That's all.
Yeah, everyone's we're all part of the same human race at the end of the day.
Sure are. Is it possible that this reality is an SQE set up by a more advanced race? Oh, absolutely. Oh, I love that one. Am I sitting inside an SQE now, not understanding that I'm inside an SQE?
Well, everybody talks about holographic existence, whereby your thought and intention creates. They say you're creative your own life. Yeah. So, on a technicality, why not?
So basically, we're living in the Matrix, the movie, The Matrix.
Okay, it's going to get to the stage where I need a beer, let alone a coffee, to get through this.
As long as you chuck in some pizza, I've got no problem.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Can we have some easy questions now?
Some easy questions.
Okay. Does the US government have SQE technology? We believe so because of the whole Andy Bisagio going to Mars jump room thing and the whole US Eldridge business and all of that.
And I think, hang on. Could I tell if I'm inside an SQE?
No. Absolutely not. No.
Can a non-technological but highly spiritually developed species use an SQE, or does it require some level of technological advancement? That question's not actually easy to answer. You would need to have the technology initially to be able to use it. You can't just create it. There is a level of technology that extends itself to create the SQE. It's like when you dip, a little circle into a bubble, and then you blow into it. The actual device is used to create the bubble, and so there has to be something behind the SQE to do that. But the intention and the consciousness was for you to blow into it to create the bubble. You see how it's a multifaceted thing. Yeah.
All I'm looking at is this beer and pizza that Enzo sent me online, wishing it would materialize into actuality right now.
You know what? Let's be honest. Imagine if your laptop, you could type in pizza and it just popped out the side.
Give it 20 years.
I mean, how perfect would that be?
Come on, we got 5 minutes left.
Have we?
Let's move on from SQEs.
If a group of astronauts use an SQ to travel to the surface of Mars, would they need to already be in the environmental suits to survive the journey? Or would that only be an issue once they arrive? They would need to be in the suits before they entered the SQE, because it would be a mirror image of the environment of that specific planet.
So they really couldn't breathe, assuming that the atmosphere is unbreathable on Mars.
And is there a limit to how many SQEs a race can create? No. And Enzo's question is?
Hang on, I'll make it go big.
You will. Now that the James Webb Telescope is operational, do you think beings on the other worlds are concerned about us discovering them? Not at all.
No.
In no way. They're actually watching what's happening with all the UAP disclosure. They're happy that the conversations are taking place. It's chaos on social media, millions of theories, lots of
arguments
and fear and argy-bargy, if that's what you say. But in the end, the conversation needs to be had and the information needs to come out so that ultimately the conversations are had, decisions can be made, and then when the races decide to disclose themselves, not when humans want them to disclose, then the population will be prepared for it. I think a lot of people are already ready for it. They're just waiting for everybody else to catch up.
I think they're waiting for the majority rather than. I don't know whether the majority would be ready for it. Not when you consider the entire planet, not just.
Could you imagine when it happens and people go, okay, so extraterrestrials are real. There's a craft up there, and everyone goes, "Yeah, that's no problem. Cheers. I need to go back to work." I mean, it'll happen. It'll just get to that point where it's like, yeah, no problem. Great. What are they here for? What do they want? What are they doing? You know, we've seen them in the sky. We've seen them here. We've seen them there for the last 80 years. At some point, it's like, okay, let's just get on with this thing. All right. Well, that's it. We're finished.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Are there any last questions before we wrap this up for this morning?
Okay.
Or has it all gone quiet?
It's all gone quiet. That's good. All right. So lovely being back again. And we are very busy with lots of things. Yep. But it's going to be a very interesting time in the future.
Indeed, it will be. Thank you, Enzo, again.
Thanks,
for
Enzo.
Looking after the chat room.
Thanks, everybody, for turning up.
Website links there. If anybody's watching and they haven't come across us before, on the website you can find pretty much our backstory and this, that's, and the others, testimonies about the healings that the Zetas have done over the years, and links to books, events, videos. It's all there. All right. We will see you all.
See you later.
Next week. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.